everyone. Welcome to episode 11. It's our end of June edition of Stellavision, Stellarizing's weekly marketing update. I am Marlia Clark, CMO. Thanks so much, as always, for joining us. This week, we are welcoming one of my very favorite people, Rina Yashayeva, our VP of Amazon Strategy. Rina is deeply knowledgeable across marketplaces, but her experience and insider insights on Amazon are unparalleled. It is such a pleasure to have her. Rina will also be speaking on an even bigger stage later in July at the Digiday Amazon conference. It's July 20th, so watch for that. But today we're so happy to have her here to give a quick look at the current trends on Amazon, which we all know are just consistently in flux, as well as best practices for launching on the platform. As an agency, we've had so many questions from brands about how to launch that I know this is going to be highly relevant. As always, submit questions as we go in the panel. Rina will answer as many as she can, but also please feel free to reach out to Rina or to me anytime with questions about Amazon, e-com in general, or even retail and consumer trends as retail begins to open up. We look forward to continuing this conversation. But for right now, Rina, let's get started.
Thank you so much, Marlia. Thanks to everyone who joined, and happy Friday. I'm so excited to be back on Stellavision. This week, we'll be talking specifically about new brand launches on Amazon. So as an ex-Amazonian, there was really only one source of truth, and that was data. I can tell you on Amazon all day long, but I will let the data speak for itself. So I always love to start off with some high-level insights as to what Amazon looks like right now. We know that Amazon continues to be the #1 destination for US e-commerce sales, capturing 38% of total US e-commerce. eMarketer actually just released their updated forecast for May 2020, so this is hot off the press. So the updated forecast for 2020 is $269 billion, up 21% year over year. The last forecasts were up 17%. And then COVID happened. So as of May 2020, the forecasts are up 21%. Amazon came to the rescue in the past few months. They offered essential items as retail stores closed and consumers turned to e-commerce now more than ever. A good portion of that growth is coming from advertising, with similar growth projections of 24% to almost $13 billion in 2020. And we'll talk a little bit about advertising in just a few slides. So who's buying? Amazon has 300 million worldwide consumers, and more than half of the households in the US are Prime eligible. The way that Amazon is currently broken out is almost 60% are being sold as sellers, 40% as vendors. So we can clearly see how that shift has been moving towards the seller side. And now looking at the various categories, it should really come to no surprise to any of us that the #1 category, the fastest growing category, is grocery. So food and beverage has a massive growth of 62% year over year. It's actually one of the smallest categories volume-wise, coming up on just under 10 billion, but it is the fastest growing. Followed by a category that we are way too familiar with, beauty and health and personal care is the second fastest growing, 45% year over year growth to almost 23 billion in revenue. So we've been closely following Amazon trends and searches essentially on a weekly basis, especially in the past few months. Consumer behavior drastically shifted to COVID essential items starting in February, and they do continue to be top of mind. However, I wanted to share the latest and greatest. These are the top 50 search terms on Amazon this month. So everything in pink that I highlighted is COVID related, accounting for about 28% of the top searches. Of course, Father's Day searches were very prevalent this month, specifically looking for Father's Day gifts for dad, from kids, for husband, getting pretty specific. People were searching for ideas. I got my dad headphones this year, which is number 47 on the list. The consumer is also warding off boredom. For those who are still in the house as the states, ease up on stay-at-home orders, they're looking for Nintendos, PlayStation 4. However, what I was, glad to see here is that with various states really opening up across the country, summer is not canceled. So people are searching for inflatable pools, swimsuits, summer tops, summer clothing, dresses for women, casual summer, giving me hope that we will actually have a summer this year. We actually just published our latest study on consumer behavior yesterday. If you guys haven't seen it, definitely check it out. We're calling consumers impacted by COVID Generation C. And we quoted that the search volume for fitness actually increased over 150% year over year. So here we see that she's still buying her yoga mat at number 43, her dumbbells and her Apple Watch to track her steps. So people are still being cautious around COVID protection. However, they're getting out there, they're being hopeful for summer, and they're being active and working out. So at Stella, we help current brands already live on Amazon grow and thrive on the platform. However, we also help brands launch from the very beginning. So here I've identified the top 5 things that we want brands to know before they launch. So if I can tell every one of my clients this, and I do, before they launch, this is them. Number 1, first and foremost, I cannot say this enough, build your brand off of Amazon first before you even consider coming on Amazon. Number 2, know your fees, not only for the CFOs in the room, but for everybody responsible for your Amazon account, definitely know what you're paying. Number 3, understand the buy box. 4 is content, and 5 is how we will actually grow the business, and that is advertising. So we'll go through each of these one by one. So the first thing before you launch on Amazon is definitely to take a step back from Amazon and build your brand first. I feel like I have broken a lot of clients' hearts when I tell them that a product on Amazon will not sell itself if nobody has ever heard of it and if nobody can find it. It's a hard pill to swallow for some, but it's definitely an important one. Amazon is a place that fulfills demand that is created elsewhere. So that brand awareness that you've already built is through your other channels. That can be your e-commerce, that can be your brick and mortar distribution, of course, your PR, your press. Everything you're doing off Amazon has a direct impact on Amazon. One very important channel is social media. So pay attention to your social, both organic and certainly paid. And if there is an opportunity, you can drive that traffic to Amazon. Because as much Amazon Kool-Aid as I've drank over the past few years, and it's definitely been a lot, I know that we can't live in an Amazon bubble. Amazon doesn't function in a vacuum, and it's not enough to just carry your brand. From a lot of our research, we know that 83% of beauty consumers, and I feel good applying this to not only beauty consumers, but to all consumers, they're actually omnichannel. So that means that they will shop Amazon, they will shop your site, they will shop your brick and mortar. So essentially, the consumer may discover for the first time in store and then replenish on Amazon. Or they can discover it in store, read Amazon reviews while they're standing in the store, and still buy it in store. But everything that happens is really related to one another. And we see this firsthand. So when my clients' other channels are up, so if an Ulta and Sephora is up, Amazon is likely up as well, meaning that there's something that happens where the brand is building awareness. When my clients have an inclusion in a subscription box this month, we see that Amazon is up. When there's a press hit or a TV segment, even if it's not driving to Amazon, Amazon is up. And then we will be there to capture that demand that you are building off Amazon. An example I have to share is of a brand that was starting off actually with no US distribution, and they went straight to Amazon. They had a very unique product, gorgeous content, but there was just one problem. Nobody had ever heard of them. On top of that, they drove all of their media to their D2C, and they expected Amazon to grow. So the hard truth is that won't happen unless you're putting in efforts to drive to Amazon, building your brand awareness off Amazon first. So before you launch, let's take a step back and ask yourself where Amazon fits into your holistic e-commerce strategy, and ensure that all channels are working synergistically at all times, and that whatever happens off the platform is just as important to what happens on. Moving on to number 2, as many of you guys know, there are actually 2 ways to sell on Amazon. You can sell as a vendor and you can sell as a seller. As a seller, the brand sells directly to the consumer, storing their products in Amazon's warehouse, whereas a vendor is a direct wholesale relationship. Each have its pros and cons. The benefits depend on the size of the brand and its goals, but they both have their costs. You're still going to have to pay Amazon one way or another. So as a new brand, you will most likely launch as a seller. So the chart on the left, specifically FBA. So it's important to understand every fee associated. So before we launch any client, we go through every line item here to make sure that there are no surprises when the bill comes. So I'll go through these pretty quickly. As a seller, you are paying a $40 selling fee. You have a 6 to 17% referral fee. This is category dependent. For those of us in the beauty category, it is 15%. In the apparel category, you're 17%. Then you're paying FBA fees. This is essentially your rent to Amazon. These will differ. They will start anywhere from $2 to $50. They can go up to $5. They can go higher. And this is dependent on your product dimensions, so your length, width, height, as well as your weight. And they will definitely fluctuate based on product. Then you're paying monthly storage fees. Not a lot, but this is based on cubic feet. And you're also paying long-term storage fees if you're in the warehouse for too long, for over 365 days. Our job is to make sure that never happens. But the first 4 columns, you will definitely end up paying. On the vendor side, your fees are completely different since you're paying directly to Amazon as wholesale. You have a 10 to 20% co-op accrual. The number one question I got as a vendor manager at Amazon is, what does this actually cover? Really good question. Amazon is pretty vague about it, but essentially this is the cost of doing business with Amazon. It pays for the website, it pays for the search algorithm, it pays for when you guys see recommended products up on your site. It is the cost of doing business with Amazon. 1 to 3% for damages. They can go higher in categories such as grocery, where there are damaged products, expired products. $2 to $5 for freight, 2% payment. But then, of course, we have a gross margin because you are selling wholesale, and that is about 30 to 40% category dependent. Moving on to number 3. Amazon has its own jargon, its own set of rules and regulations. And if you only learn one, if there's only one that you take away, let that be the buy box. So Amazon is not only a retailer, it's also an open marketplace. So that means that they allow several sellers to offer the same product and essentially compete for a sale. That algorithm is known as the buy box. The buy box is one of the most important features on Amazon, but it's oftentimes one of the most misunderstood just because there's a lot that goes into it. So the main aspects that feed the algorithm, number 1 is price. So you must have the lowest price in order to win the buy box. That price is your item price as well as your shipping price. Number 2 is availability, meaning you must be in stock. If you are not in stock, you have no chance of winning the buy box. Number 3 is shipping time. Those of us that are Prime eligible have a higher likelihood of winning. And number 4 is your seller rating. So your seller rating is not to be confused with your reviews on your products. Your seller rating is based on the actual seller. We're always aiming for at least 98%. If you dip below that, you have a chance of losing the buy box. So as an Amazon vendor, you actually take precedence over everybody else ships from and sold by Amazon. But FBA sellers or Seller Central on your 3P side, you're competing for the buy box equally. So let's take a look at the example that I have here. My first role at Amazon was to manage L'Oreal, so I feel like I always use them as an example. So here we're looking at L'Oreal mascara, and L'Oreal is a vendor. They're one of Amazon's top vendors in beauty. And you can see that the box that says buy box says shipped from and sold by Amazon, meaning that Amazon or L'Oreal is winning the buy box. However, if we look a little bit lower, we can see that there are 14 other sellers. Some are selling for higher than that price. Amazon is winning at $8.54. The other ones are selling around the $8.90. So having these third-party sellers, oftentimes they could be unauthorized, are sometimes one of the biggest challenges that brands face. And sometimes what's most surprising is that brands have no idea where these sellers are coming from, but the truth is they can be coming from your distributor sold to somebody else, a brick and mortar sale. And in order to really dominate that buy box, brands need to control their own destiny and control the sellers that they sell to ensure that that buy box is clean and coming only to them. Because just because you are not directly selling to Amazon does not mean your brand is not already out there through other third-party sellers. So if that's the case, and if your product does already exist as a new brand, it could actually be beneficial to you to merge your listing with the one that's already live. So essentially the rule is 1 UPC equals 1 ASIN. So if you have a new product that is not on Amazon, that you haven't put on Amazon, but somebody else is selling it on Amazon and you guys share a UPC, you can use that UPC, tack it onto the same page that exists, and you can merge yours with them. So now you have a chance of competing and winning. So we've talked about some pretty technical stuff so far, so I'd love to get to the fun stuff. The number 1 way to succeed is to obviously have a fantastic product, but in order to sell it, you must have fantastic content. So there are three main places where content comes into play on Amazon: your images, which we'll go into on the next slide, your brand store, and your A+ content. Your A+ lives on your detail page a little bit lower below the fold, and it serves the purpose of educating the consumer through custom enhanced content. Your store is essentially your own little mini website, but on Amazon, this can be customized to fit your brand. So we build Amazon creative in-house, working with the brand directly to translate your brand story onto Amazon. So 3 examples I have here. On the left, we have a brand store, and the other 2 are A+ content. So this is your opportunity to educate the consumer past just the bullets and the images. And pages that do have this enhanced content have seen sales increase up to 10%. I'd love to talk a little bit about the main product images. The customer's decision gets made at the point of detail page. So we want to make sure that yours explain it all. One question that I'm often asked by brands that are just launching is, do I need to develop new content for Amazon? And the answer is, it depends what you already have. But your brand or your .com, usually we have 2 to 3 images, but Amazon requires more in-depth content than what you have on your D2C. So we recommend 7 images, and we have a very specific outline that we suggest to brands before they launch. I have 7 examples here. I cater them to beauty because it is, majority of what we do. However, when we do launch a brand, we customize this recommendation for the specific brand. If the brand has assets already created, we help guide the strategy and we tweak them to best practices. But if the brand doesn't have the assets, we actually work with their creative team and their photographers to guide the photography. This is the equivalent of somebody picking up your product off the shelf. So starting from number 1, the main product without the box. Number 2, front of the box or front of the product. Number 3, back or side of the box or product, whatever is most impactful. Number 4 should be an ingredient list. Customers want transparency. They want to know what is in your products. Number 5 are infographics, which I am obsessed with, and I definitely want to focus here. So infographics are just text made to look like an image. This is your opportunity to call out features and benefits, ingredients, a before and after shot. After that, we can go into lifestyle images, and if you have a video, I definitely recommend that you do so. Here I have 3 examples of infographics. All of these are calling out ingredients. On the left, we have a full ingredient list. In the middle, we have the main core ingredients, such as coconut oil, hibiscus oil, etc. And on the right, from a grocery client, they feature the entire nutrition facts that would be featured on the actual product. I can really talk about infographics all day long, but my mentality is, if you have it, flaunt it, and definitely don't make the consumer guess as to what the benefits are. Because the truth is, consumers are so lazy. So even if you have this information already in your copy, somewhere on your page, just put it on your infographic as well, if it's a selling point. So here are some other examples that I've pulled. On the upper left, we have a clinical trial that was important for the moisturizer we have. In the middle, we have a how to use. On the right, we have a fragrance brand. Obviously, for fragrance, your key feature here are your notes, so make sure we call them out, especially with visuals. That was one that we designed in-house. On the bottom right, we have Maybelline, a before and after for mascara. In the middle, just some key benefits, the fact that this product is dermatologist tested. And on the right, this is from Skinny Pop Popcorn. They are featuring, they are gluten-free, dairy-free, etc. Especially if you are something free, make an infographic. It usually is not a lot of work. Either the brands can create it, we can create it in-house, but especially for the beauty categories and the grocery categories, we always recommend them as a must before you launch. And finally, now that you've done all of that, you've built the foundation, you know your fees, you've built your brand, we have to grow your brand. And we do that through advertising. So having your good products and your good content is not enough if nobody can find the product. And we can't expect the product to just succeed and put your brand out there without any paid efforts. Amazon is broken up into 2 types of advertising, your search and display. Search accounts for 73% of Amazon advertising and is growing 25% year over year. We always recommend starting with search advertising first, or as Amazon calls it, sponsored ads, and then building up from there. Brands usually have a budget allocated for paid media, almost always, and we work on that side of the business as well. But that budget does not always include Amazon. So I'm all for sharing. I'm very happy to share from the paid media budget. But if you are serious about growing your business, we do recommend allocating a separate budget specifically towards Amazon. It doesn't have to be a lot, but we do recommend starting somewhere so we can build it from there. For an existing brand, our recommendation is approximately 10% of your top line. It can be anywhere from 8 to 12. But the number one question I get is, if I'm a new brand without any history and no sales, there is no 10% of top line, so what should I spend? The good news is that Amazon advertising is a real-time bidding auction. We can see results right away. So we help determine our client's starting budget based on the amount of search volume they already have. If you have 50,000 searches already on the platform, your budget will be higher than somebody who has 0. We can start off with a budget as low as a few thousand a month, and we build from there. We set the budget, we determine the goals if you have a specific revenue goal or a ROAS goal. We come up with the keywords that are relevant, build your campaign, and then launch from there. We're in your campaigns every single day, and we make optimizations as needed. So let's say we start with 5K on month 1. By the end of the month, we analyze that performance, and then we're able to make proper projections for month 2. And I just want to end off with a visual example of what an Amazon search algorithm looks like. So from here, I'm searching for mascara. And there are 2 types of search ads. The top one, this headline banner, is called the sponsored brands. And this is more of an upper funnel tactic, sometimes at a lower ROAS, but are usually 2 to 4 placements. And these are called sponsored products. These drive directly to the detail page, more of a direct response. And these usually have higher returns. But we create your tiered approach based on your budget to make sure we tackle both your branded terms, eventually moving on to non-branded. I would love to end it here. We are at 11:25. I do want to open it up to any questions about anything I spoke about or anything else you guys have about specifically new brand launches on Amazon.
And I see, Rena, there are some great questions, and I'm so glad you told us what you really think about infographics. That's great. So I see there's some good questions. We could probably take about 3 questions, and then we could follow up with any others.
Perfect. So here I have, this is definitely one of the most commonly asked questions. On average, how long does it take to successfully launch? So sorry. Thank you for that. The question was, on average, how long does it take to successfully launch a new brand on Amazon? A very frequently asked question. And the answer is it depends. It depends on how many ASINs you have. Launching 2 ASINs and launching 200 will obviously yield various results. And a lot of it does not actually depend on us or the brand. A lot of it depends on Amazon. For Amazon to approve your new account, approve your ASINs, and approve your content. So I always set 1 to 3 months as our benchmark. We've done it in 1 month for smaller clients. We've done it in 3 months. Some take 6 months. Question about advertising. So we have a question that says, which advertising metric do you believe is the most beneficial for new to Amazon brands? Another really great question. New brands love the data. They love all the different metrics that we can show them through advertising. And I think this one also depends on the brand's goals. Some brands are very specifically focused on your ROAS, your return on ad spend, or your ACoS, your average cost of spend. However, the truth is that can sometimes be a vanity metric. If I tell you you're getting a 500% ROAS, that does not necessarily mean that we are driving revenue or growing the brand. So whenever this is their goal revenue, and if so, we do look at the spends, we look at the revenue, but we always keep ROAS in mind because we want to make sure that not only are we spending your money, but we're spending it efficiently. Other metrics that I think are super important are conversion. We look at conversion organically, but we also look at conversion paid because those numbers are usually a lot higher. Another metric that is fascinating through advertising is impressions, because your impressions on Amazon, you can see how they're growing with the advertising that you're adding on. Organically, we attribute this to page views, and on the advertising side, we call them impressions. So definitely one of the more important metrics to look at as we begin to grow your brand and grow that brand awareness. So great question there.
Great. That is terrific. I know we have more questions. We are running out of time a little bit. So please follow up. We'll try to follow up with all of you individually, but please don't hesitate to contact Rena or again, me. We'd be happy to answer any of your specific questions that are relevant to your brand. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We are off next week for the 4th of July holiday, but please join us again in 2 weeks when our Chief Digital Officer, Brandon Hegel, will be back with another one of his super popular updates on e-com, retail, and marketplace trends in this incredibly volatile year. Again, Rena, thank you so much for joining us, and everyone have a great weekend.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.